So wonderful to see you all. Happy Saturday. I hope everyone's great. Um, I'm Amy Raptor. I'm the VP of Operations for World System Solutions. And we're so grateful you're taking your time today to be with us on your weekend. And it's grateful to see so many new faces. Just want to do a little intro and housekeeping. We are going to have a lot of people today. So if you're willing to just keep your microphones muted unless you're actually speaking in, that would help to kind of keep the jumbling at a minimum. World System Solutions is a nonprofit organization. We are a 501c3. And we just want to begin by offering immense gratitude to all that have donated and also contributed immense amount of time and energy to our organization that allows us to make these workshops happen, as well as everything else you'll learn about that we're doing in the world. So thank you to those that are here that have been in such amazing support to this effort and service. So we're excited to meet you. And if it's okay, if you're willing to just put your name and location, and if you're representing an organization in the chat, that would be great, just so we have a sense of who's in the room. And as we begin, we also want to share we're going to be recording this meeting, and we do want to be able to share it with future participants and for education purposes in the world. So we do take off your names off of your video. And if you want to be off video anytime you're speaking, that's fine as well. The speaker is pinned, so we don't show the full screen unless there's no slides being shown. So that said, we do want this to be interactive. There will be a lot of questions asked to allow contemplation and chatting in the chat, as well as those that want to speak in. So we're really wanting to hear from you in this offering. So our organization is focused on resolving climate change and ensuring the health and survival of our species. And to do so, we understand that's going to require a major shift in consciousness, and that that will need to occur at an individual and a collective level. So we just want to say that everything we're sharing today is in love and to build a place of service for humanity, nature, and for future generations. And we ask for your compassion and understanding. And we're not perfect, and we're just looking to be here to collaborate with you. So we appreciate your energy, your focus, your intention. We're going to be doing some breakouts that will allow us all to get to know each other better and walk through some exercises. And we're just excited to go on this journey together. So with that, we would like to turn it over to John Jones. We're going to offer you a heart-opening meditation. John Jones is our CEO, and he will be guiding the majority of the presentation today. So thank you for being here, and we shall begin. I'll turn it over to John.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it tremendously. And we are hoping, we're asking that all of us remain in our hearts today throughout this conversation and this presentation. And we know that you care because you're here. We understand that you're excellent souls, and we appreciate your presence. And we want to say, please do ask at any point if you have questions, any question you have. We want this to be a conversation as well as a presentation. We want to engage you folks in all dimensions of this conversation, because we understand that you have important things to communicate and important insights. And we want to hear from your souls as we go through, and especially in the breakout sessions. We're hoping for an optimized collaboration amongst all of us for the common good and for service to humanity in the natural world. So if you're open to a brief meditation, just to help focus us, align us, and open our systems to possibility, collective possibility, again, for the common good. If you would close your eyes and simply take a breath of light and love into your hearts and souls and minds. And find in that breath of light and breath of love the capacity to understand, the capacity to receive, the capacity to collaborate in care, in compassion, and in service. If you take another slow, deep breath of light and love into heart, mind, and soul, and find in that breath of light empowerment, the true co-creative capacity of your soul expressed in its highest possibility, its most graceful, caring, loving expression. If you take another slow, deep breath of light and love and find alignment, find resonance with the positive intentions and capabilities of everyone online here today, so that we can all unite, appreciate each other, respect each other, love each other, and have compassion for this moment of everyone else's lives, as well as our own. If you take another slow, deep breath of light and love and find peace in your hearts, minds, and souls, even in the midst of these tumultuous times, even in the midst of current and future challenges that we may be meeting as a species and as individuals and families. And realize that that capacity to hold peace in the midst of the tumultuous dynamics of life is a sort of empowerment. It is a sort of increased capability that will allow you to understand better and make wise choices at every moment of life. It will allow you to serve those you love. It will allow you to be there in your most present, co-creative, empowered state. You take another slow, deep breath of light and love and find in that light your infinite co-creative capacity that operates without limit, that's always online, always available, always present, and always readily expressible in a collaborative way, an open way, a caring way, in every moment of life and relationship and work and service to humanity and to those you love. If you take one last breath of light and love and find in that light the truest, highest expression of you, your soul self, your best self, your most gracious, loving, kind self. The most beautiful expression of your being, present now in this moment, to be shared kindly and generously in this moment, to be expressed selflessly, gently, compassionately. In these moments of life, that compassion is one of our greatest gifts we can offer anyone. And it's a power that you have, that only you have, that's unique to you, unique to your process, your soul, your heart, and your mind. If you immerse yourself in that capacity throughout this workshop and move, speak, and act from your greatest potential, your most loving, kind potential, then you will have served humanity without question, without equivocation, without limit. And if you would now settle in your own beings in a grounded way, in a present way, in a collaborative, participative way. And we thank you for your kindness. And if you would open your eyes in presence here now. Thank you. So we are World System Solutions, and this presentation is specifically on the topic of and designed to help us all understand collectively how we can empower humanity to solve for climate change. That's a big and important goal and process and dynamic, and there are no unimportant moments or dimensions of that process. There are no unimportant people. There are no unimportant aspects of life that we could not include in this dynamic and still come out with the most optimal results. And we realize that, and we hope to offer a process, a dynamic, a support infrastructure that allows for the aggregation, the drawing in and expression of everyone's capacities. And we hope to communicate just when, where, how, and why that can occur, why it's beneficial, why it's necessary, why we see it as a comprehensive antidote to climate change. We don't claim to have all of the answers. We hope that it's not assumed that we do. We hope to generate a container or a venue or a platform that will allow the collection of those understandings and those contributions from everyone, because we recognize that there are no unimportant people and there are no unimportant moments in life or co-creative efforts. And we recognize that there must be some way for your capacities, your excellence, your brilliance to be delivered consistently into the world at scale, catalytically, in order to change the trajectory of human life process on this planet. And that if we don't do that, if we don't affect that sea change, that directional result, then we are likely to experience great pain and suffering as a species. As a species, and we're also likely to have loss of many species on this planet and damage the world even more than we already have, the planet and the ecosystem. We are World System Solutions. We want to communicate this information briefly just so that you'll understand where we're coming from, where we're going, who we are, and the way we roll, if those words make sense. It is our intention through conscious collaboration to unite, organize, mobilize, and align humanity in common purpose to resolve climate change. Together, we hope to generate a sustainable global future via intelligent application of technology and resources. Now, that's a collective application, a well-organized and logistically intelligent, effective, and efficient distribution of solutions, technology, and resources that is arrived at through strategic understandings rather than in what might be the current hit or miss process of humanity. Right now, we don't have a collective plan, strategy, process, and there are many forces in our world that are inhibiting the arrival at that consensus approach. So we're working diligently to create both a platform that will allow that to occur, as well as methodologies, techniques, educational information, and and understandings, collective understandings that will allow us to unite, allow us to work together, allow us to serve together for the arrived at common good, that common good being arrived at by the inclusion of information, ideas, thoughts, concepts, and understandings, creative understandings that are delivered from every person in the world to this system. So we're not prescribing anything. We're not assuming we have the answers. Again, we are hoping to collect them and to synthesize them, integrate them, balance them, and have them inform global strategy and global solutions generation efforts. We feel that this process must be supported by a technology. Right now, we couldn't be having this conversation if we didn't have the internet and if we didn't have Zoom on which we're speaking. And these technologies are the fledgling steps in terms of what can be collaboratively arrived at and what can support collaborative effort. They're very necessary developmental steps, and we have a long way to go, and we truly need to get there quickly. And we hope that you will help us and find resonance with these intentions and goals. So welcome. Thank you for being here. Our intention is to empower all of humanity, and we recognize that unification and that alignment and that capacity to agree upon strategic approach, upon shared values, upon what is truly important as we face this very complex, multidimensional situation that we call climate change, which isn't just a process of increase in temperature. We see it as a symptom, if you will, of our process of life as a whole on this planet, humanity's way of relating to the natural world and the ecosystems that we participate in. So we feel that must change fundamentally, our relationship to nature, our relationship to each other, our relationship, each of us, to humanity, to other genders, to other races, to other countries, to other religions and belief systems. We feel that evolution of relational understanding must be augmented, facilitated, supported by intelligent information and education and support, caring, love, and service intention. So we want to offer information to help us all understand how we can change our relationships in healthy, constructive ways. Right now, humanity is quite polarized, divided, separate, imagining itself to be separate, experiencing itself to be separate and conflicted. That's generating untold pain, suffering in the world, and a lot of haves and have-nots, and a lot of misunderstanding. We would suggest that anything that is conflict-based in human relationships is actually just a misunderstanding, because we have faith in humanity. We have faith in our capacity to love and care about each other and serve each other. And we recognize that if those misunderstandings get worked out or ironed out, all of a sudden people recognize each other's innate goodness. They see the soul process in another, and they can appreciate it, love it, be motivated to serve it, nurture it, and nourish it. And that process of service of humanity, all of humanity, to all individuals and groups, to the rest of humanity, we see that process as evolvable, supportable, catalyzable. And we feel that in these tumultuous moments that process of support is mission critical if we want to be able to garner the necessary support and collective action and application of technology and resources and human creative capacity to solve for climate change in a succinct way. So today we'll have 2 breakout sessions. You folks will, if you choose, will be asked to work through some of the challenges that we perceive to be affecting our world today in regard to our potential to collaborate intelligently, effectively, constructively, and successfully. And then we will be asking if basically if we offer you a technological capability that doesn't exist in this present moment, we are building it and it doesn't exist yet. If we offer you that capacity, if we offer you that empowerment, how you will use it, how you will relate to it, how you will apply it in the world, because we want to ensure that we are in alignment with your soul process, with your highest intentions, with your greatest aspirations for where humanity can go, what it can be, who we can become as a collective species, and how we can learn to reharmonize with each other, of course, and also with the natural world. We have been growing out of sync with the natural world for so many different reasons. And that lack of integrated understanding and synchronized relationship with the natural world has led us to create very damaging ways of farming, for example, that is killing the soil, killing the biome, and generating food that is actually not nearly so healthy today as it was 50 years ago. And we don't know it. We can produce lots more of it. And from a nutritional vantage point, it might be a bit like eating cardboard. So we hope to help arrive at significant change in those regards. Next item. We will have a 30-minute break today between the first half and second half of the presentation and the workshop. Next item. We hope that you folks would find interest in this organizational process and be willing to engage with us in future and participate with us and bring these messages, if they are of value, if they have relevance and merit, that you would communicate them to others. We wish to collaboratively engage with humanity, all of humanity, because we recognize every single human being is a necessary piece in this puzzle. There are no unimportant people in our world. Next item. We are seeking funding and for the mechanism of global climate change resolution, and we will describe it later. And we are a nonprofit, and we exist on external funding, and we hope to utilize any contributions in service to humanity in the natural world. Next item. We hope to initiate long-term relationships with you, and we'll say why that's important. We have, for the last 2 years, been working diligently. We've got 91, now 92 weeks of intensely focused effort trying to understand what bonds human beings together, what brings us together as souls, as human beings, as personalities, what brings us together in constructive ways, and to generate an educational regimen that could be delivered to anybody at any time, anywhere in the world, in order to help them see that we are all one, that we can't not be all one. We may imagine we're separate. We may imagine ourselves as individual personalities or identities. And the truth we see is that there's a global fabric of human process and a global fabric of our relationship to nature, that if we just understood it and accepted it and recognized that it is a necessary understanding to move and operate from and make decisions from, that we would all make wise choices that did not damage the environment and did not harm each other in the process. And we hope to communicate that perspective, those understandings, that information constantly to the world so that there can be a path, a defined path and process and dynamic of unification. Right now, nations are divided. peoples are divided, religions are divided, political systems are divided. Individual human beings feel in one way or another, either distrustful or unsafe with others. Our social agreements and our trust models have been broken by innumerable influences, whether they be political or technological. How do we rebuild those connections? How do we heal the connections between us and the rest of humanity, and do that within the short time that's available to us? Science would say we have, give or take, 7.5 years to dial down carbon emissions by 50%. That means change for the entire world, vast, rapid change. We've got 3 years to stop the inertia to currently we're making more carbon, even with all of our understanding of the problems that it's creating. We're actually accelerating our production of carbon globally. We've got 3 years to curtail that inertia and start to reverse it. Otherwise, according to science, we have runaway damage to the environment and potentially irreconcilable global challenges in terms of weather, destructive weather dynamics, drought, fire, hurricanes, etc. Next slide. So this is a challenge. Every human being has an identity. Every human being has wisdom, expertise, knowledge, and experience. And we have found this in our work to be a crucial element of how we collaborate. Collaboration from humility and vulnerability is challenging. The ego process wants to be an expert. It wants to say, I know things, I have power, I want to have effect. And that generates a challenge for collaboration. So we would suggest, and it's just a suggestion, that if we all choose consciously to empty the cups, if you will, of our prior knowledge, prior experience, and openly receive and vulnerably receive today, and vulnerably share from your hearts, from your souls, that we'll get the best results possible. We commit as an organization, anyone, myself and anyone in the organization, we commit to set aside anything we assume we know or understand. We want to hear you. We want to understand you. We want to hear your souls and your minds and your hearts speak today so that we can learn from you. So this is an option, an opportunity, and we see it as an optimal way to proceed collaboratively together. And we would suggest that this would be the case for all of humanity for the next 100 years, or however long it takes us to fully solve for climate change. Next slide. So these are a list of some of the workshops on the left side, the workshops that we have already produced and presented, and the fifth one is today's workshop, and some workshops on the right side that we are going to be presenting in the future. We understand that climate change resolution is a complex and multidimensional situation. It's not just about chemicals. It's not just about pollution. It's about the way of life that we live from, where we act from, how we make decisions, and offering the people, all the world, the capacity to make ever more wise decisions that will take us into reharmonization with each other and with the natural world we feel is necessary. So all of this and more, all of this education and these workshops and more, we feel are absolutely necessary in order to arrive at the collective capacity to change in healthy, constructive, beneficial ways that serve humanity and serve the world. Next slide. So we have some questions that we would like to ask you now, and we are very happy to meet you, and we know that you care. You showed up. That's half of the challenge, is showing up. We would ask you to contemplate, what will it take What will it truly take for humanity to change as one and build a new world, a sustainable world together, to heal our differences and actually to move the needle on climate change and to collaborate in common purpose and conscious service? And do you feel it's possible and or necessary? Next item. And what changes would you feel would need to occur in yourself, in your beliefs, in your way of life to affect this vital goal today or very soon? Next item. And are you willing to make these changes within your life and within yourself? If you would be open to answering any of these questions right now, verbally and or in the chat, that would be fantastic. We want to take just a few minutes to hear from you and to understand your perspectives. The floor is open.
This is Ken. Can you guys hear me? Okay, well, I really am totally on board with the idea of when we understand that we are all one, that automatically these changes could take place, because it's as if you were wanting to chop off your own finger. If you knew that this finger belonged to you and was part of you, there's no way you'd want to chop it off. So the idea of that we understand, on a deep level that we're all connected and we're all one is, I think, the key ingredient here. And to me, it's a matter of consciousness of how we expand our awareness to really feel it that we're all one. And I use meditation to help do that. I do transcendental meditation, but I'm very curious as to other ways that we can really help people establish that deep feeling of connection. Because once you have that, then it's an easy transition to all think about how we're going to fix what needs fixing. And so that's my big question: is how do we facilitate that feeling in people that they are actually connected, not just an intellectual understanding, but a really deep knowing. I think that's the key right there.
Thank you, and beautifully said, and totally agreed. Other reflections, thoughts?
What comes to mind for me in this now moment is just people seeing each other as different, like based on their color or what they're wearing or anything. I've learned in one of your books, John, about how prejudice and bias, how when we see somebody, we have all these things. Oh, this means this, and this means this. And so it's like we think, oh, this person must be in this category, but they're not. So then we treat them like they are, but they're really not. So I think on a collective level, it would be really wise to, and I think it's happening naturally, but to just really not distinguish people based on gender, color, any of that, just to really see people as people. Like I'm just a human, like I'm not anything but a human. That's what I would love to see and change in the world.
Thank you. Beautifully said.
I'll share a bit. I've felt that over the many years, there's been a lot of conflict and war and violence and all the above, and definitely a lack of conscious collaboration across the globe because of people holding very specific beliefs and values in their system that in some way are conflictive with others. And so, and over the many years, I myself have been doing my best within my own system to clear out any and all beliefs and really just move into a place of consciousness, right? Really standing inside my connection to my soul and to consciousness, and really listen to, what's in the highest order, what's being guided for my soul to serve. And when I think more folks do that, we can be guided into a place where our beliefs kind of go to the wayside, and more so our heart comes online. So I believe that in order to consciously collaborate on this planet, more hearts need to awaken into more of the soul process, and to remember that we are all truly one. And as we already spoke of here, and in that, the ability to consciously collaborate just becomes effortless. And the heart and the soul and care and kindness for not only ourselves, but for the world comes online so truly beautifully. So thank you.
Thank you. Totally agree. And these are important truths that are not necessarily part of every conversation every day. And it's important that they become part of the conversations of our world. Alessandrina.
Yes. In addition to what I put in the chat, one thing that's coming up as I'm listening to the different participants talking is this shift in our way of looking at our challenges, meaning that when we become aware that there are challenges, there can be this reactivity in us where we feel disempowered, we feel unable to address something that feels so big. And we can be in that cycle of reactivity and not really allowing ourselves, while really recognizing the challenges as they are. We can change that reactivity and use that energy actually to really focus on solutions, and together as a collective really begin to define those solutions and feel those solutions possible. Oftentimes we can be in that cycle of feeling like it's not resolvable, it's too big, we're not going to be able to change things. And so changing that mindset and really opening ourselves up to what's possible.
Thank you so much. And agreed. Alfred?
Well, I wanted to follow up on something that Alessandrina just said, and it's something that I experience. I live in East Tennessee, which is a very conservative, for lack of better parts of the world. And I don't feel like a lot of people have had the chance that are here, that are rooted here, to actually get out and travel. I've been very blessed in my life to have been in many parts of the world, as well as almost all over our country. And their unwillingness to change their patterns and their own personal dramas about various things, whether it be religion or gender problems or what we're speaking about, really focusing on today, climate change. I mean, the landfills and the waste that people use here are astounding. And it kind of, the idea that we can still use coal to produce energy is mind-blowing. And I am fortunate to live in a part of the world where there are 7 reservoirs. And so there's a lot of water energy production. That's where we get the majority of my area's electrical power. But it's just my biggest problem. And I don't know how to deal with it by myself. And so that's why I think, this kind of conversation is so important. We need to get a common mindset. It's going to take a lot of work, but having people that aren't willing to make the change, they aren't kind of able to overcome their personal intolerances, is what I see here in my area. I haven't traveled too much since COVID, but I do appreciate you letting me speak up.
Thank you. We thank you for speaking up. Your perspective and your view is vital to this conversation. Much of the world lives within its own local perspectives and local process. And if there's not a way to bring to people's consciousnesses, to their minds, to their life, the way the rest of the world is operating, how do we orchestrate collective action at scale, at necessary scale, and catalytically, so that it brings about massive change in the near term for the better? Carrie?
Remain.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Just triggered from the last conversation, what came to mind for me is the need to translate, to put these concepts in each other's shoes. And since we are in so many different cultures and backgrounds and places around the world that each have these impacts and these responsibilities, building into these systems a way that we could translate to the ways that other people and cultures understand the world. And so most of us being in the US, I see where we're going to have a kind of an innate outlook that we have on the world, but every country is going to be a little bit different, and they do things because they come from a very different landscape and different histories, and finding ways to appeal to different groups of people, probably top down from beliefs and religions, to even the macro of other nonprofit organizations, the need to build in a way to translate these concepts so that it makes sense in their vernacular. So that just came to mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Totally agree. Brilliantly said. Some dynamic of aligning in a strategic way all existing climate change endeavors, different cultures, perspectives, and values and goals, and different nations' approaches and intentions and goals is one thing that we hope very much to affect. And that is a sort of Rosetta Stone translation from culture to culture, nation to nation, organization to organization. And that has been one of the core elements we have been striving for the last couple of years, to produce a body of knowledge, a set of methods, techniques that will allow this weaving together of all of these excellent capacities so that we can move as one, if you will. If you've seen murmuration, they call it, between birds, a flock of birds, it moves smoothly in the air. They don't bump into each other. And fish in the sea, so that we can learn to as a whole, work together this efficiently and effectively towards healthy, wholesome goals and intentions and results that will, again, regenerate the planet, regenerate nature, and slow the process of destruction that increasing human population is producing, and finding a way to generate a loving, kind, caring relationship and very self-aware relationship with nature. Reagan?
Yeah, just that last piece of information that you shared, and what's being shared right now, is just feels so poignant to just reflect that that's just it. There's just been so many excellent missions and endeavors and initiatives and charities and organizations that are doing the best they can to help this world and with climate change, and that there is just that there's everyone's doing the best they can. And even if they are serving a group of folks, let's say they're helping a community of a couple million people, that is wonderful, and it's still disjuncted in some way from connecting with the whole. And so we need a hub, a communication hub. We need a something hopefully that the WSS is now creating to come together into that hub, to be able to communicate and have all the world's peoples share and communicate and align. Because without that, there's only these bits of progress happening sporadically upon the planet, and it is excellent, and thank you for that. And at the same time, we need to unify into these excellent endeavors and bring them together more so, which of course would require conscious collaboration. And that has been something rare on our planet, if not at all. So I just felt it was important to reflect that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Totally agreed. It is imperative that we have a central source of information that where all voices in the world are heard and can get the opportunity to contribute, and also where fact, as best it can be determined, is available. That true information, accurate information, vetted information that's not polarized, that's not divisive, that's not politicized, that's not trying to affect some agenda or some special interest approach, is available so that people can say, okay, this is where we are. If you've ever been on the way to someone's house and gotten lost and you gave them a call and they said, and you asked them, how do I get to your house? The first question they would usually ask is, where are you? And if we know where we are collectively, if we can arrive at where we truly are collectively, we can define the path and process of where we can get to be together. And it will be a co-creative process where everyone has a contribution. Amy?
Hi, everybody. So my name is Amy Denter. I live outside of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. One of the things I think that also, a couple things that need to be addressed in order to truly, deal with the effects of climate change is we have to think of how can we help alleviate poverty. Poverty is a huge barrier for so many people. Most of the people that are living in poverty can't even think about climate change and how is it affecting them. And also, ironically, they're also the ones that are going to be most affected. And so I think in order to really truly have a plan of action or collaborative action, all of us who are aware of these issues need to figure out how can we help bring these people into the conversation. How can we help give them the education? I think you're right with your platform. I think that's absolutely going to be helpful. And it's going to take grassroots organizations to have that outreach to bring these people to the table. And I think too, the gentleman from Tennessee, I understand where he's coming from. I too live in an area where, there's a lot of conservatism. And they definitely don't feel like there's anything wrong and it's business as usual. And unfortunately, most people aren't going to be moved to make a change in their lives unless they're directly adversely affected. And so I think we also have to get the message out of what is happening around our communities, our states, the United States, and globally. How are other people truly being affected? There's places that already have run out of water, but we don't hear about that. So we've got to figure out how to bring all of these issues into light and figure out how can we get people to even know what's happening truly, even if they are experiencing, maybe they don't necessarily think that they are experiencing it because they're just worried about having something to eat today and how are they going to get to work tomorrow? And those types of, those are some of the issues that come to mind for me is just that social equity, social justice, And that has to be a part of this conversation. That's it.
Thank you so much. Absolutely true. Absolutely necessary. There must be some way, some process, some infrastructure, some technology that is going to make their voices heard, the challenges of those, the have-nots of our world, visible constantly, not just once and not just for a brief time, constantly. Because any strategy that's arrived at, if it doesn't take into account those who don't have the capacity to change, they don't have the resources, they don't have the necessary support, if we don't take into account those truths and make them available, publicly, broadly, globally available, constantly available, then people are not going to be able to understand. They won't be able to truly understand. If they don't understand, how can they care? How can they have love and compassion for these folks? How can they relate to their pain and suffering? And how can they not remain in dynamics of denial about the pain and suffering that these folks are going through? So we're in absolute agreement, and it is our intention to create that scenario of constant taking snapshots day after day after day. Where is the world in this moment? Where are the challenges in this moment? Where are the problems? What are their natures? How can they be resolved? And if we implement a solution, is it a good solution? Does it truly meet people's needs? Yes or no? If it doesn't, then how can we modify it immediately to resolve that lack of goodness of fit, of mapping solution to problem, antidote to pain and suffering? Corrine?
Hi, I'm in California, and I actually have a number of people I know who are on the other side, so I think I should mention it, which is just that a lot of people don't believe there's global warming. And then there's issues like recycling, which we find out actually doesn't really work and doesn't recycle like it's supposed to. And so I feel like there's a whole section of the population who's having trouble believing that it's a problem. And so for that, I feel like your platform, if it can become a trusted form of information, like if there was, the problem we're having right now everywhere is people don't know where to get real truth and real information, what is true, who speaks the truth. If the platform could be known as a truth speaker, then all kinds of information can show up there, proof for global warming, proof of, recycling and how to make it work. And, these are just simple examples, but I don't think we can ignore that there's just a lot of people who don't believe it. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you for that. That's a vital component of this situation, meaning that people operate from their understandings, from their vantage points, from the information that they have access to. And so that is a challenge. It's an educational challenge. It's an informational challenge. It is and in a way, it's a bias challenge, because whatever people believe in the present moment is what they tend to interpret life from. And they tend to exclude new information if it doesn't map to their pre-existing beliefs. And that's, by the way, key and core to our process of information and education distribution, to be able to help people work through pre-existing beliefs and or vantage points, positionalities, or current understandings and associated filters, biases, and prejudices that would keep them from uniting, aligning, healing their relationships between each other and with the natural world. We have just enough time for Octavius and Idris, and then we need to jump back in. Go ahead, Idris or Octavius.
Good day, everyone. Glad to see your all's faces, first of all. Glad we could get to hear to this oneness here. And I just want to thank you guys for this platform, and to know that, because I'm listening, and I've been hearing this seems like all of my life. There's this lie that we've been living, because it's not that complicated. There's enough for everybody globally, everywhere. There's enough, there always has been. And so what that comes down to is people having to make these decisions, because on my personal note, growing up, I don't even know what, all I know is oneness. I grew up like that. I didn't know how to separate you from your race. I could see it, but it wasn't like this big deal. But then as I grew, I started being taught all this information, a lot of things, learn information and stuff like that, which I kind of dealt with, but there's enough for everybody. And it always has been. Now, it's not so much that, it's that it always seems like we got to convince other people of the truth, of the knowing of who they are. And this has been going on a while, and I participate in it too. But I'm just saying there's enough, and this planet is just amazing me. All of these experiences that we're having are pushing us to be the best that we can be. It all depends on if I want to judge. But at the point where I've been in my life for years, I don't think it's so much a judgment of this group or that group. We all know. And I was listening to John earlier, and I've heard this before. You might hear it. We don't have the answer to everything. But what I'm seeing is we do have the answer. We're just not utilizing what we have, whether it's personal, selfishness, whatever it is. But there is enough for everybody. How do we get that across? Myself personally, I do music therapy. I use music because I travel all over the world, and I don't know people's different languages, but the music seems to bring us together as one. And I basically would say that's basically sound and alarm. It's very cool, very important. So all of these things is, I believe we're right where we're supposed to be, and we could be better, but it's like, we know what's going on. We know, and some people don't really want to look at it. I look at me, and it's so hard. I've had to, because I'm a loving person, and I only would see things one way, which is as a oneness, but I got ostracized and prosecuted for being like that. I was silenced. And I grew up, my teenage years was in the 60s. So there was about love, joy, peace, and happiness. And it was actually a youth revolution, and we were seeing what we're talking about right now. But be quiet. Don't talk about that. Matter of fact, go put on this uniform and go fight. And that's what I did. I'm a veteran, but I'm just grateful to see this right here. And I would like to see for it expand, but I know that it's too complex sometimes. We're really, and that complexity is not complex in a way that it's not simple. It's just that I just want to touch people's lives, let them know that there is enough, and be of service. Go help somebody, even if it's just to speak to them. I can't change the way I look and the way I am, but I've had to spend so much of my life trying to prove that I am okay with you just because of my skin color and all this other type of stuff. So now I've had to do all of this work to clear all that energy behind that. And it's like, this has got to stop. Got to stop. There's enough for everybody. We know what the deal is. You use the word loving, caring, kind. We have all these businesses. Everything is here. What are we looking for? That's my question. Everything is here. What are we going to do with it? Now, some people have what they have, and it's big enough for everybody to be the way that they want to be. We just have to learn how to live together. And there's so much more I got to say, but I do have to run. I got a session I got to do, but I just wanted to check in and let you guys know that this is greatly appreciated. And this planet, I just hope that we can assist it in its growth, right now. It always was sustainable, so we'll just have to see. Because right now, I don't know. It's just a lot of people, or I call it in a hypnotic state or a trance, some type of trance, that this is what they're seeing is really real, and I get where they're at with it, but it's be mindful that there is a place where we all can live together, and it's called Earth. And it was perfectly designed, and we can live here just the way it is. We just have to start somewhere. Just start right now as individuals. How are you going to change globally the planet when all these individuals are running around with all these issues, traumatized? You got to deal with the individuals first. Just like somebody was saying, there's a lot of people that I know of that don't even know anything about global warming or none of this stuff. They don't even have a clue that what's happening. And they don't even really want to know because they're too busy trying to pay their bills or get a job. You know, that's that hypnotic, that stuff, but there's so much more. And so what I'm here to do is to assist and hopefully be able to make this a better place to live for all of us. As a community, global, it's funny to me, we're already a global community. We just act like we're not. We pretend like we're not. But anyway, that's the humor part. So I want you guys to remember to have the best day ever.
Thank you. God bless you, Idris. We love your message. We totally agree. And this is the path forward. Thank you. Now, and we apologize, folks, we have a lot of information that we hope will be useful. We want to offer it to you, and we want to move through it quickly, if that will be okay.
It'd be great, yeah.
Thank you. God bless you, Idris, and thank you for being here. Okay, so the basics. There are a billion, according to various sources, the IPCC report from the United Nations and from UNICEF, 1 billion children at severe risk right now. We've got 40 years of our current approaches have not moved the needle or trajectory on climate change. We need a new approach, a new paradigm. 3.6 billion people are at risk for freshwater scarcity, and there's the potential for a sixth extinction, leading to a literal global collapse of life on our planet. That's tough. That's a tough thing to hold, to accept, to understand, and then to respond constructively to in a sustained way. We get that. We want to help that effort. That's our goal. So reading these statements doesn't mean that we fully understand their meaning or implications. We understand as best we do. We need information systems and support systems that will allow us to fully understand so that we can be engaged, we can be collaborative, we can be effective. So a comprehensive new approach is required. Solving climate change is needed. These technologies are available, and it includes a new form of education, a new source of information that doesn't exist as of yet. So we literally need to change the developmental trajectory of humanity. We are designing and developing a global service platform that we would refer to as a social movement engine, designed to empower collective humanity, all individuals at a grassroots level, so their voices are heard, their capabilities are expressed, and even if they are in dire straits, that their voice would still be heard. If they had a half an hour per week, they would be able to log on and voice where they're at, what's happening, what they need. So we feel that degree of information transfer to the collective from everyone is necessary if we want to be able to effectively and collectively work together. So right now, a good portion of the world is either trying to escape from the fear and pain of their current lives or from the meaning and implication of climate change. And there's other parts that are trying to profit off the potential apocalypse to say, well, how can we make money rather than actually solving it? How can we greenwash? How can we produce a portion of a solution, a fragmented approach that doesn't really solve it, doesn't really generate a sustainable future for future generations and humanity and the natural world? And this has got to be transcended. We got to get beyond this together. We would ask, how does diversity and inclusion and equal empowerment by every single human being in the world, every race, every gender, every age group, every nation, every religion. How is that directly tied to resolution of climate change? And how is the current situation of division and non-inclusion and non-equality generating climate change? We would say that these are absolutely inextricably influencing elements of our current situation. Half of the world are women. Have those women been empowered? Have they been given a support system, a place to congregate, a place to have their voices heard, their creative capacities expressed consistently, and affecting a way to literally affect all the power of all the women in the world to generate a sustainable life process for humanity? Men and women are different. They're socialized and conditioned to be different. Women understand, in our view, we're not trying to be projective here, relationship, the nuances, the subtleties of relationship, far more than men do. That is a brilliance of capacity and understanding that cannot be overstated. The world needs that. All of our issues are about relationship with each other, relationship of the masculine and the feminine, relationship of humanity to itself, relationship of humanity to the natural world. If we don't become experts, all of us, on relationships, relationship management, relationship healing, relationship development and evolution and curation, how are we going to reharmonize with the natural world, reharmonize with each other, unite, mobilize, and take effective action? So we feel that empowerment of all diversity, every race, every religion, every age group, is a foundational, unquestionably necessary component of the solution to climate change. And there's resistance in our world to that occurring, and we must transcend that resistance collectively, globally, as a species, if we want to generate a sustainable life future for future generations. So we would suggest that parts of us, of all human beings, have either bias or prejudice or projective dynamics or distortive interpretive lenses that might say, well, I'm willing to collaborate with these folks and not with these folks. I'll collaborate with the rich and not the poor. I'll collaborate with this nation and not this nation. I'll collaborate with this race and not that race. I'll collaborate with this religion and not that religion. Collaboration needs to transcend all of these divisive dimensions of human process. We would suggest that bias and prejudice and unconscious filters and obscurations of all kinds are often amazingly subtle and subconscious. We are generating a body of knowledge and information and understanding and methods and techniques and an educational regimen to resolve these tendencies in humanity, to help us recognize we are one. We've always been one. We can't not be one. And we can't not be one with the ecosystem. We've become disidentified and disassociated from the ecosystem by living in concrete and steel structures we call cities. That doesn't mean that we can't reharmonize and re-resonate with nature. So our approach as an organization is that the WSS equally values, celebrates, loves, and invites all expressions of human diversity in service to the unrepresented diversity of nature. Where in the United States, in the government, where are the representatives of nature? Where are the people that try to garner votes for every other species on this planet in the making of laws and policy? And we hope that these messages are received as an expression of love. We're not judging anyone. We have no criticism of any human being or life process. And we hope to offer insight, understanding, perspective, and support. So again, we are building what we call the social movement engine, which is this environment that allows all of humanity to collaborate and work together, to be heard, to constructively design solutions together, and then to affect them together in the world and to learn how to live together, work together, appreciate each other, love each other, and serve each other as equals. And we would ask to anyone who is online today or hears this in future, this question, do you want to help with that? Do you want to participate in that? If not, we understand. If you do, please tell us, please engage with us, collaborate with us. We invite you, we love you, we appreciate and respect you. We feel that this process is in large part for our world a dynamic of healing the pain and suffering and trauma that women have gone through in our world, the pain, suffering and trauma that the have-nots and the poor and destitute have gone through in our world. There's got to be a system of healing. There's got to be a system of reconciliation of all of that pain and suffering. And we have such a short time to effect it. And it's so vitally important that we do. So we love you all. Please hear that. This is from our hearts. This is from our souls. There is no limit to that. You are important to us. We care. We hope that's understood. You're not alone in this world. You may well feel alone in many dimensions or dynamics of life or relationship. We want to help shift that understanding for all of humanity to recognize none of us are alone, that we all have the capacity to love and care about each other all the time and to help each other. So we want to empower you. We want to offer you capacity, realized capacity to change the world, no matter how much time you have in your life. We want you to be able to have the realized ability to affect the world in that amount of time because you have the right to it. You have free will, you have the right to affect the world, to bring it to a better situation than it is now. It is feasible to work together and far more effectively than we currently do and at larger scales. Currently on the internet, it's a bit like the Wild West, a lot of divisiveness, a lot of people's opinions, and not a way to synthesize all that into effective global strategic action and solutions generations, and we want to solve for that current discontinuity and non-alignment of effort. So we would just ask this question, something to contemplate. If we generate this platform and all the tools that you'll need to change the world for the better, to heal the world, to reunite the world, all the necessary technologies and information, would you follow through? Would you be willing to participate? Would you be willing to commit to the good of future generations? We're not expecting an answer in this moment. It's something to contemplate. If not, and if it's a skeptical world, how many people have been abused, traumatized, used, misled, mistreated in our world to the point where they've lost faith, they've lost hope, and don't believe that there's any way that we can solve our problems together. We get that. How can we meet you or any part of you that is feeling that in service, in surrender to your needs, in love for you? Tell us how to do that. We want to do that. We're here to listen. We're here to learn. We're here to serve. And we want to do so as effectively as possible because you deserve better. So if there is any resistance, we hope to help work through that resistance today in our process. Is there any resistance to solving global warming, to solving the challenges of our world and generating a future for our children? Is there any resistance that's not worth working through as fast as we possibly can? Our situation is dire. We get that. We accept that. And it is not unsolvable. It can be solved. We can do it together. We have the power. So we feel that taking proactive action together can potentially save us and reduce suffering globally. If we operate reactively or in a fragmented way, a non-united way, a non-orchestrated way, that we'll get a hit or miss kind of result that is not consistent, that's not sustained, and doesn't meet the mark. And that's what we feel has been going on. There's so many wonderful efforts in the world. Excellent climate change resolution organizations exist in this world. And have they all had their efforts sewn together into a constructively well-aligned, well-organized fabric so that all the resources that they have access to are most effectively used, utilized, applied, and experienced by the world? We want to affect that goal. So we'd suggest that what we're doing now, as much as people are working, as diligent, a lot of people are being pushed right to the limits of their capacities, and it's not working. And it can work. So what we're doing now, we're just suggesting changing to something, a new paradigm that can work and will work. A quote from Einstein, which I'll paraphrase poorly probably, is that we can't get to solutions from the same quality of consciousness and approach that we created the problems from. So we must be willing to change that point of view, whatever our points of view are, comprehensively, collectively, and now, and together. So do you feel in any part of your system that managing your personal needs or pain or fears or stresses is what matters most now? If yes, we get that. We understand that. We see, I can't tell you how much we feel the pain and suffering of our world. We live it every single day. And we feel that we could not understand much of anything if we weren't willing to do that. We're not suggesting people overstress themselves in that process. We are suggesting empathetic, compassionate understanding is mission critical if we want to help people, if we want to solve for climate change. So do a lot of people assume that they're doing all they can already and thus taking effective, empowered action in the world just isn't feasible? Well, without adequate technology to support your efforts, tools, and a collaborative environment, that may be true. So we want to offer you the technology, the tools, the collaborative environment, the shared workspace where we can meet and combine our efforts synergistically to have massive catalytic effect and change in the world today. So in any part of your system, do you feel you're a prisoner to the system, to the way the world's working now? Do you feel limited by it, by the expectations of society or the current beliefs or limitations that folks are operating from? If so, does this affect your ability to solve for the climate change crisis? If it does, we get that. We want to help you leapfrog all of that right now as fast as possible and effectively. So from what perspectives do we take effective action? A lot of folks in the world have been taught and conditioned to operate from a what's in it for me interpretive lens. If it doesn't serve me, if it doesn't profit me, if it doesn't give me greater power or status or safety or security in the world, I'm not even going to listen to it as an option. Have we been conditioned to feel that we can only take action if we're safe, highly resourced, we're stable, our family is stable, and even then, maybe only if we do become very financially solvent or capable or powerful in the world, we really can't trust that everybody's not out for themselves. So we can't give, because if we do, it'll just any contribution of time, effort, expertise, knowledge, and understanding, and energy or finances would just be utilized for self-centered goals or results. So we're going to be stymied by distrust and skepticism. We get that. And so how do we affect an antidote to that collectively that's transparent in its process? A platform that is transparent, that's open, that you can look at. You can either say, that's real, true, good, healthy, wholesome, or that's bogus, false, and a lie. So, and thus we're not going to allow that. So we intend that this platform we're developing be that transparent, that open, that visible in all of its dimensions. Do you have competing priorities in your life that effectively stymie your capacity to serve, that limit your capacity to serve? If so, we want to help reconcile that. We want to help support you in a way that will reduce that internal dissonance or conflict. The social movement engine, or SME, is a system for effecting your free will and your soul's highest intentions and potential, all in service to humanity and the natural world and future generations. And our question would be, do you want such a system to exist? If you don't, we get it. That's okay. We just want to know if such a system, if you had it available to you right now, would you use it? Would you log on? Would you start applying your personal power today? If not, why not? Is there something stopping you or us as a species from personally or collectively taking effective action now? Do we, any part of our systems, do we fear socially being seen as out of step with the surrounding society or our local population or culture? Do we know what collective change looks like? Do we know how to change collectively? We want to offer you a completely defined, wholesome, healthy, sane, caring path to collective change. A whole defined bridge. Do you feel unsupported in your conscious caring efforts by the current system or society? If so, we understand. We want to help you reconcile that and solve for that. And we want to ask you to help us help you. Do you feel disempowered or limited by the current power structure or political systems, the dividedness of our nation or of the world? We feel that sustained, intentional, conscious, committed collaboration is the antidote. And having a space to operate in those ways is the antidote and is now required. Are people just too busy to change and to solve for climate change? And just too busy to generate a future for humanity and future generations and our children? If that's the case, how do we transform that? How do we change that? We feel we have a way. Is any part of you, does it fear being criticized or judged for not really caring about the world, nature, or future generations? How do you release yourselves from that prison of judgment or that impediment or impingement on your capacity to effect powerful, co-creative action, to bring your brilliance, your creativity right now and make it available along with everyone else's? In our world, are there any valid reasons for not taking collective action right now? We would suggest there has been up until now. There hasn't been a technology, an organizing capacity to take collective action. We want to solve for that. And when that is solved, will there be any reason not to do it? How many people tell themselves stories to distract themselves from the pain and the suffering that is going on right now, or they imagine will occur in future in regard to climate change? It is painful to contemplate the future that we're generating from our current trajectory. We get that, we absolutely do. We want to help you heal. We want to help you manage that stress. We want to be there for you. We want to offer you methods, techniques, information, and technology and empowerment so that that pain is diminished and your creative capacities arrive online, 100% sustained, laser focused together with the rest of humanity. That's our goal. That's our hope. We have faith that is possible and can be effected now. So this is our situation. According to all the information we have available from science or from other dynamics, if we don't change our current trajectory as a species, we're going off a cliff. We're going to an irreconcilable, unresolvable future of pain and suffering that we can't dial it back past a certain point. We feel that the SME or the social movement engine is a key core element. We're not claiming to be the end all be all for the whole world. We're suggesting that the world working together is the antidote. We just want to help them do that. We just want to take the bushel basket off that covers people's creativity and their empowerment and their wisdom, their knowledge, their understandings, so that they can affect their brilliant capacities in the world. In this process for solving for climate change, we suggest that self-accountable, harmonious unity among recognized equals, everybody equal all the time, everyone heard all the time, everyone listened to all the time, everyone contributing all the time, is the optimized process for life going forward as a species, and will allow us to reharmonize with nature and rejuvenate the planet and heal it. So that means choosing to prioritize conscious service and for the collective well-being of humanity and the ecosystem and future generations, prioritizing that above gender, nationalism, race, tribe, ego, a higher than mistrust or fear or skepticism or being right about anything or being more right than someone else or making other people wrong or less than us. We feel that must be transcended, those tendencies. So right now, humanity tends to operate tribally, politically, divisively, egoically, from separatist tendencies, fear, skepticism, and distrust, between masculine and feminine tendencies that are as of yet unresolved, unhealed, not balanced, not reconciled and rectified. We want to offer that path, that support system, so that those dynamics of disunity are quelled, healed, soothed, resolved, to generate empowerment for everyone, everyone's voice heard equally, everyone's co-creative capacities applied equally and constantly and forever, not just to solve climate change, forever. So we feel that in order for our species to survive and succeed, uniting is necessary, and collaboration amongst equals is necessary, and that it is possible. And that, believe it or not, any part of us that feels it's not possible is just an impediment to it being possible. Any pain or suffering we've experienced in the past that says, oh no, that can never happen. Oh no, people will never change. Oh no, men are this. Oh no, women are this. Oh no, people are this, or tribes are this, or nations are this. All of those are just obscurations, limitations from actually choosing decisively, effectively right now to just do it, to just bring it into existence. We can birth humanity 2.0. We're doing our best to create a gestational vessel, the social movement engine with all of its capacities, all of its educational capabilities for humanity to nurture, to birth their future possibility that we are all representatives of. Then we ask your participation in that. We need global scale solutions and developments and delivery systems for regreening technologies. We've been degreening the world. We need to regreen the world. And that takes knowledge, understanding, tools, capacity, collective effort, and alignment and intention and knowledge and understanding that will empower each of us to do that. If we find out when, where, how, and why, we can very effectively and catalytically take whatever ideas or capabilities or creative understandings we have and say, I can apply them right here, right now, and that'll have the biggest effect if I do so. Bang. It's there. It's real. It's accomplished. It's necessary. So, what is the unification of humanity? It's forgiveness, it's love, it's care, it's transcending the ignorance of the past, of the oneness of all, of the goodness of all, of the soul expression that all of us are. We're all expressions of God. We're all expressions of spirit. We are all equal in that process. There are no less thans in this process. So we would ask for contemplation, and if you would put in the chat, what do you see as the barriers for unification at this time? Do you see why we need a support system to catalyze and unify and mobilize and align humanity into some degree of consensus agreement of what do we want the future to be? What world do we want our children to inherit? What world do we want to live in together? And there must be a conversational space for that collective agreement to be arrived at, for that collective arrived at understanding from a vantage point of wisdom and discernment and clarity to be arrived at. How else are we going to affect more than superficial global change? So what's keeping us from mobilizing, keeping us from uniting, keeping us from agreeing? If right now we've got incomplete or misinformation, or in some cases open lies, half-truths, agendified information, politically polarized messaging, tribalism, nationalism, politicization of the world, and climate change issues that don't need to be. If we have a platform of truth, a platform of fact that doesn't serve any special interest or any political system or any for-profit competitive dynamic, then we can arrive at understanding that will serve all of humanity. We would suggest that vested interests are not going to generate a sustainable economic system and model. Just compete, we can't compete our way to a sustainable future. It's not gonna work. Capitalism is fine, and toxic capitalism is killing us. So unresolved cultural wounding and gender wounding, racial wounding, religious wounding, and conflicts must have a venue for solution and resolution and healing, collective healing. The world is divided by its wounds and associated misapprehensions and projections. And that dynamic of polarization and division and disunity and blaming each other for past wrongs must have a way to be righted, healed, soothed, a place where our wounds can be soothed and arrived at from an understanding that will generate healing. So right now there's an unwillingness in our world to fund necessary global change to solve for climate change, because we're saying the only way we want to get to climate change resolution is if we make a big financial return on it. We would suggest that's a form of insanity. We're not going to profit our way to solving the apocalypse, because profit-driven goals, blind profit-driven goals, have generated a whole bunch of what we're experiencing right now. The current mode of farming in our world is literally to put pesticides down that kill the topsoil and generate crops that don't have a healthy, they don't have vitamins and minerals they used to 50 years ago. And we do that for profit. We're accelerating that, so much so we're killing future generations. Right now, if you eat a fish from the ocean, it's got plastics in it. They've been doing testing and taking blood from people, and there's particulate plastic in people's blood. We're eating plastic. How can we change such a paradigm, unwind it all, and solve for it if we don't work together? So we're spending trillions of dollars on defense every year around the world, rather than funding peace and collaboration and successful resolution of the effects of climate change. Is that, again, a form of insanity? Must we align all of that in some new way to solve? So greed and desire are parts of human process. We're not judging them. We're not vilifying anyone. And we are suggesting that that must change. Trying to keep the global status quo in place is just going to generate more problems. Focusing on competition rather than collaboration and solutions generation is a dead end. Humanity endlessly wanting more and desiring ever more luxurious Western lifestyles at the expense of the planet, that's got to change. And it needs to change through orchestrated education and arrived at solutions that are harmonious. Fear and distrust and broken social contracts and dysfunctional trust models need to be replaced with functional social contracts, functional trust models that people can believe in, they can trust, they can depend upon, they can work together from. Ignorance of the true nature of the global situation is keeping us from working together and arriving at collective solutions. Lack of a global synchronized strategy, defined plans and processes and solution generations, mechanisms is not allowing us to solve for climate change in this moment. Profit prioritization above survival of the species. Where is the intelligence in that? Is there a drive in humanity that must be faced, that must be dissolved, reconciled, transcended, if we want to generate solutions? Inadequate governance systems that are supportive of solution, inadequate policies, inadequate dynamics of arriving at collective action. That must change. There must be a mechanism of change. Otherwise, we remain stuck in what we're currently doing in our day-to-day lives and feeling like we're wearing a straitjacket, that we can't affect change. All of that can be resolved. The supposed incapacity to either individually or collectively hold the global situation in our hearts and minds and souls enough to map our way through and out of it. We want to solve for that situation. We offer, from our hearts and souls, we want to offer that solution now. We want to be there for every single human being on the planet. We ask for your participation if you choose to. We would suggest that identity in all of its forms are impediments to realized oneness, whether we see ourselves as a specific gender, race, political affiliation, age group, or a mom, a dad, a participant in society from any particular positionality. Paradoxically, that polarized or limiting positionality gets in the way of collective empowerment and collaborative solutions generation. We have a way, and we can build a way together to transcend those discontinuities of collective action. So what issues are created by our personal identities that keep us from working together? We may have fear of abandonment, fear of loss, fear of death, fear of experienced pain. And it's the identity itself that is an outgrowth of fear that then fears, that then keeps us constantly ruminating or cycling in these limited vantage points of distrust and incapacity. Subconscious illusory projections of other people are not trustworthy, they're not going to be there for us, they don't care about us, they don't want us, they don't appreciate or value us. If we feel that about everybody, that's what we're going to experience and react to. And when we do, we'll be reacting to our own projections, not to the love and kindness and care that others truly have the capacity to live from. So distrust is endemic. Judgmentalness in our world is endemic. Criticizing anything and everything rather than working together to solve for climate change is endemic. Narcissism, self-centeredness in our decision-making is not going to solve global problems. They focus on survival, control, and safety to the exclusion of working together collaboratively and collectively, and fearing abandonment by others, and applying strategies, safety strategies, control strategies, survival strategies for us as individuals or our families are not going to translate to collective global action. We have conflicting and limiting beliefs, religious persuasions. All religions are good. And how do we align all religions and all belief systems for the collective good, for the common good, and for the good of the planet as a whole? Competition for resources, status, power, safety, sex, money, and time. These are so ingrained, so endemic, so subconscious for most people as decision-making strategies that when we're focused on all of that, we're not focused on working together. We're not focused on solving the fragmented dynamics, the roles, the rules, the conditioned behaviors that most all of humanity operates from. There are ways to transcend those fragmented feelings and projections and imagined ways of living life and interpretive lenses. So different definitions, everyone's got a different definition of love, care, kindness, compassion, reality, and success. We can work these discontinuities out. We can operate from shared definitions, concepts, values, goals, understandings, and thus wisdom, and make discerning decisions from those vantage points. Human beings are taught to operate dualistically, to think in black and white terms of right, wrong, good, bad, safe, unsafe, accepted, or abandoned. If we operate from any of those polarized vantage points, they tend to keep us from being able to see each other in a holistic way, understand ourselves in a holistic way, and live in harmony with others in a holistic way that's tolerant, loving, kind, caring, compassionate, and putting love and care first rather than judgmentalness or fear or divisiveness or competitiveness first. So we do have non-aligned values and goals. That's just a fact of the world. And we need to transcend that. We need a space to work together to transcend it. Next item. There are things, victim, perpetrator, rescuer dynamics. I'm a victim, they're a perpetrator. I'm good, they're bad. I'm being traumatized and hurt, and they're doing it. These polarized misapprehensions keep us from truly understanding that the people who operate in the world, even if they do so destructively, divisively, in a polarized way, a competitive way, they're not bad people, they're not wrong. They just don't, as of yet, understand how to love one another equally, how to serve each other equally. And we need a transformational path and process and an educational system that will support that evolution of understanding. When people feel vulnerable and powerless and angry and victimized and judged, they tend to then go into dynamics of hatred. You can see it in the world today. The endemic mass shootings, the violence, the war, the hatred between imagined to be different peoples. That hatred is understandable and it is solvable. It's healable as long as we choose to understand it and not vilify it, not hate hatred, have compassion, have love, have empathy, and then dial down that pain and suffering that those who hate are operating from. So there are unresolved woundings and traumas in the world within genders. Both men and women have wounded each other, and those wounds can be healed. Women in our world can be empowered, recognized as equals. And that said, it's not just an empowerment of women, it's a healing of the masculine, it's a healing of the feminine simultaneously that will allow us to meet as recognized, loving equals and appreciate each other and be appreciated by each other, serve each other, be there for each other, support each other. We need that. We've got a 50% divorce rate in the United States right now. How much pain and suffering is that creating? How much is it affecting our children? How vital is it that we find a way to love and serve and appreciate and respect each other as equals and feel that from each other, experience that all the time. There are ways to do it. Truly there are. Please have faith. Please have hope. We can do it. We have tribal and social and political affiliation. Nationalism is a tribal affiliation. If we say that we're better or more important as a nation than all other nations, how does that allow us to unite with them? If we tell them they're less than us or they're not as important as us or our needs are more important than their needs, how do you expect them to come to a table with us as a nation and feel loved, cared about, and appreciated and respected and involved and included. And that's the same for every race. That's the same for every nation, every religion, every people, every culture, every philosophy, and every belief system. Can we get through the door of the future if we're carrying a bunch of baggage? Can we get through the door of the future together in empowered ways, in mutually respectful ways, mutually appreciative ways, if we're holding on to the hot burning coal of identity and letting it burn us over and over and over again, rather than just letting it go? Fear and distrust is endemic. The current modalities of social media platforms with all of their AI algorithms have divided humanity and turned us against one another. Those same technologies can be used to unite us if they're applied that way. And that is our intention. And transparently, not hiding them, not allowing them to manipulate humanity or define humanity's emotional process or political process or social process, to help us understand one another and love one another and collaborate with one another. So there are antidotes to the ego identity and personality process: humility, integrity, vulnerability, radical forgiveness of the entire history of humanity. Everything we've ever done up until this moment to wound one another or hate one another or abuse one another, forgiving it. We prioritize love and compassion and service above all other goals and above ego self and or the constant process of wanting more or not wanting others to have what we have. If we choose to heal our wounds and traumas and identified with experiences, we can become conscious and collaborate and prioritize collaboration over competition. Prioritizing collective gain over personal recognition or ego process, or I've got to have mine first before anyone else has theirs, or personal gain or power or goals. This is a sea change in collective consciousness, a sea change in tribal, unconscious, entranced dynamics of dysfunction that we have been living from, and we can change today collectively around the world as long as we choose to do so. Consciousness that operates transcendent of these identity items and ego process, tribal process, and personality is achievable in a catalyzed, rapid way, as long as we have a delivery system for that understanding. We need a safe, collaborative space with support systems to collaborate in. How are we going to learn to change if we don't have a collective space to learn to change in? And if we don't have all of the ingredients and resources and support information to affect that goal? So we're about to go into a breakout session. We want you folks to have a time to talk together, to contemplate these dynamics and to voice what you think, what you feel, and to arrive at ideas, solutions, and new perspectives together. You will be brought back after 20 minutes. There will be a facilitator to guide you in this exercise. Please speak from your hearts and your souls. We need you. The world needs you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So how can we all work together to solve climate change successfully, constructively, effectively, and efficiently, and in a sustained way? Meaning not just an effort for a day, a week, or a month, or a year, for the long-term future, because it is a long-term project. We as the WS are intending to build. Right now we have engaged with 2 organizations to architect and build and design and build and deploy a global service platform we call the SME to literally empower billions of people, everyday people, average, wonderful people, to work together and to generate a situation where 6 degrees of separation are are dropped to zero, where anybody and everybody can work with anybody and everybody else. So anybody on the platform would have access to existing climate change organizations and initiatives, to governmental institutions or research facilities and knowledge and information and education and universities and scientists, and existing social movements. Any existing social movement can operate on the social movement engine and affect their social movement goals. So we want to honor everyone's contribution, everyone's goals and intentions to serve humanity and to make a better world. We want to offer direct access to resources, technology, and funding to anybody that needs them in order to help the world change and transform for the better. And where any and everybody can meet people of like mind and capacities in order to help you affect what you believe in, what you love, what you care about, what your goals are, who you are, and your unique soul's contribution to this global process. So we would ask, do you see the possibility or the value and or the necessity of this large-scale organizing platform and infrastructure to take currently non-aligned activities and goals and processes and synthesize them and align them in order to create greater effect in the near term in the world? And would you consider collaborating along with all of humanity as an equal participant on this platform, united via intention, process, education, and collaborative venue and technology? We're being very candid in this slide. There are many, many different dimensions to climate change. It's not something that climate scientists are going to be able to figure out and generate a silver bullet solution to. It's not something that government institutions are going to be able to unilaterally impose as policy or law on humanity and have it work. It's not something that economists or for-profit competitive organizations are going to be able to solve on their own. It's not something even that very well-meaning social movements and activists will be able to affect alone. They are catalysts, they're supporters, and we all need to work together in the long run. There are agroecology efforts and transformation that must occur, restoration of topsoil, and a capture of carbon in our world. These are very necessary. They may seem technical, and they're very necessary issues. We must choose to engage all religions and spiritual approaches to life and have them bring the energy of their care, their love, and their spiritual process online. And therefore, there must be some system, some organizing system and paradigm to synthesize and integrate these various dimensions of global life process and align them effectively and efficiently for the common good. And again, apolitically, non-denominationally, of course, honoring everyone's contributions and doing our very best to empower all participants equally and to have everyone have the capacity to express their power, their understandings, their brilliance, their wisdom.
Question. I'm just wondering if it would be, if you could speak to the difference between multidisciplinary and egoless transdisciplinary and how it ties back to what we just spoke of on identity in the breakout and in the last section.
Thank you. Vital question. So right now, most organizations or governmental institutions operate from what might be termed a multidisciplinary paradigm. A bunch of experts that get together along with their personalities and egos in the same room, and they all voice to each other their perspectives, and then they compete rather than collaborate quite often for status or power or influence in the process. And they don't really integrate all of their knowledge and their creative capacity and their insights and understandings into a functional whole, a functional complete solution. And part of that is just because we have had such a competitive dynamic in the world. Within universities, each of the different disciplines is siloed. They compete with each other for funding. They compete with each other for status and power in the society, rather than collaborating, rather than working together for common purpose and higher goals and intentions. So egoless transdisciplinary collaboration is that process of checking our egos at the door, checking our personal desire at the door, and saying, I'm here to offer whatever I can offer in the best way it can be offered, and to blend that seamlessly with everyone else's contributions and creative process. So because I perceive and I understand so well that the sum of the parts is not going to be nearly as effective as the whole. If a whole bunch of disparate, fragmented, non-aligned intentions and activities is just not going to create the wonderful, amazing potential that collaboration creates when we integrate our knowledge, our expertise, our capabilities, and our creativity egolessly for the common good. So this is a sea change. This is mindset change. This is a heartfelt and caring approach. This is a willingness to work for that which will serve everyone equally and for the long term, for future generations, and for all peoples, all nations simultaneously. So this can be resonated with. This is what we've been practicing in the WSS for the last 92 weeks now, and very intently to find out the recipe, the path, the process of how do you subtract wanting to be the one who's in control, wanting to be the one who's recognized, wanting to have your personal agenda define the entire process, wanting to compete for position or power or influence. Subtracting all that out is not a natural thing for humanity, and it is something that we can all learn. When we were children, it was challenging just to learn to tie our shoes, and now you don't even think about it. It's immediate. You don't even have to realize you've done it, and it happens. We can learn to change together, and it'll become second nature. And then it will spread throughout the world. The world will learn how to change itself. We're not trying to change the world. We're trying to offer the capacity to the world for everyone to transform the whole process of humanity together in a very democratic and unified way, and in a very conscious and caring and loving way. There are many different elements of human societal process. We're hoping that the social movement engine will bring them together like pieces of a puzzle into a larger picture that everyone can understand, they can work from, they can operate from collectively, they can collaborate in the design of and the architecture of. We literally are asking all participants, help us design the social movement engine. Contribute ideas, thoughts, concepts, values, whatever you feel is most important to be part of it. Please, we want to hear you. We want to integrate it because it's going to be a manifestation of humanity. It's going to be a reflection and a mirror to the process of humanity. All of the contributing individuals and groups and nations and religions, all of them, we want to be represented in this architecture so that moving forward, humanity can recognize itself as one, as a loving, beautiful, creative collective. And we want to empower that process and empower everyone to contribute to it and to be heard, recognized, appreciated, validated, and understood within that very holistic concept and process and system. Right now, humanity is trying to hold on to the past and trying to develop new paradigms that do work. And we're being stretched further and further. The old ways of doing things, tribally, ego-identified ways of operating, separatist ways, competitive ways, profit-driven ways. They are keeping us from taking this necessary requisite step to transform ourselves from caterpillar to potential butterfly, from a dysfunctional, non-sustainable life process that is damaging our world, is creating fires, floods, catastrophes, drought, and a lack of a sustainable food source for humanity. So literal food and water insecurity that could lead to war or mass die-offs of humanity and other species. To translate that and transform that current non-sustainable process within the time available and with the resources available into a new paradigm of wholeness, collaboration, focus on the common good, systemic understanding of how the ecosystem works and how we work in concert and harmony with it, so that we become more aligned, more resonant with nature, the way it was hundreds of years ago in some ways, and still able to have a good quality of life for everyone, and people's needs being fulfilled: food, water, safety, security, abundance of all kinds, so that there is not this current overt division in our world of haves and have-nots, powerful and powerless, safe and well-resourced versus unsafe and suffering. So this balancing process is part of our intention. Balancing of the genders, balancing of the races, balancing of the nations, balancing of the various religions in our world, balancing of the various cultural dynamics in our world. We see this as necessary, as not a nice to have, not a someday, not a possibility. It's a truth, a fact, and a great potential that we feel is right before us. So we see the social movement engine as the bridge from the past to the future, that all would build together, cross together, define together, benefit from together, and be contributors to, and be beneficiaries of. So just a quick story. The Brooklyn Bridge was originally, when it was built, it was not trusted by the participants or the inhabitants of Brooklyn. So how did they face that situation? How did they help people have confidence and trust in that bridge's stability? They marched a bunch of elephants across it. And people could see, well, the elephants are a lot heavier than we are. They didn't break the bridge. It didn't fall down. It was safe. It was dependable. It does the job it was built to do. So it's okay for us to cross the Brooklyn Bridge. So we would say that there's a lot of fear and skepticism with change of any kind in humanity at this time. And simultaneously, the paradox is it's vastly important that we embrace positive, constructive, collective change, and that we initiate it, and we generate it, and we curate it, and we serve it, and we contribute to it in every way possible with our knowledge, our love, our care, our creative capacities. So we would ask, in order to help people get and understand, and we're looking for your reflections, what will it take to help humanity to recognize that there is a bridge? It is a safe bridge. It's a dependable bridge. It's a bridge that they're building. It's a bridge they can traverse together. It's a bridge they're defining together, and that it can be trusted, it can be depended upon, and that it's worth crossing that bridge and getting there together just as fast as we possibly can. And that it is a collective effort. It's not some organization. It's not the WSS solving for the world. It's not any particular nation solving climate change. It's not any particular political system or for-profit or organizational system or any super duper technology solving everything, because that's not going to happen. We want to be very practical and realistic in these statements. America can't solve climate change for the world. China can't solve climate change for the world. India can't solve climate change for the world. And we can solve it together. And in order for that to happen, we must choose to do so. So arriving at that choice point together is our goal. And we feel that the social movement engine is a vehicle for us to arrive at that collective agreement to work together and then to actually affect it, to fulfill on it in every step of the way, constantly, to follow through, to not have a scattershot approach, to have a sustained, consistent, holistic, large-scale global effort, and to affect it constructively and successfully. So why, if we've got this vast complexity of all those different disciplines that we looked at on a few slides back, that's complex. How do we manage that complexity? How do we bring all those brilliant experts together so that the results of their efforts are the most effective, most brilliant, most integrated, most powerful and empowering to everyone in the world? We would suggest that a system to manage that and organize that complexity into a really constructive, well-organized process and set of results is necessary. So a central system that connects other organizations allows for rapid development globally. Right now, if you could imagine climate change is a sort of roof that millions of raindrops are falling on and just running off. If we took all those millions of raindrops and we applied them all at the same time, it would smash right through that barrier. There would be no limit. There would be no problem if we work together in a concerted way. We are powerful together. We are vulnerable and disempowered if we are disunited or non-aligned or are not operating in an orchestrated, effective, efficient way. So one hub to manage all climate change communications, learning, and coordinated efforts. Right now, we lack that. Nations are not operating in an orchestrated union. They're not even committing as of yet to fund that process. They're not committing to specific changes that are organized in reference to other nations, at least not in a fully committed way. And we're getting there and not fast enough. So the SME supports the management of massive logistical complexity so that individuals, the person in the street, are not required to understand all of the complexity associated with climate change in order to be empowered to take effective action and make wise decisions that have global effect right here, right now. If we have a whole bunch of non-orchestrated efforts in the world, we're going to be reinventing the wheel in every different country over and over and over again, rather than all designing the most intelligent wheel together and then distributing it to everybody as fast as possible so that they can get the most powerful effect in the world. That's what we want to build. That's what we intend and hope to achieve. So the Social Movement Engine is a collaboration platform that supports these transdisciplinary efforts. Right now, with all of the boxes that people operate from, the silos, the discontinuity of effort and understanding, that collaboration is very inefficient, ineffective, incomplete, non-sustained, and we're not sharing our knowledge and information and capacity in the wisest ways. Where universities try to hold on to their knowledge and their information and not share it with other universities because they're in competition with other universities. In this situation, we've got 3 years to take effective action. We would suggest that approach in a university environment is insane. It's not only dysfunctional, it is antithetical to human survival. The same would be true of any competing nation. So integration of many kinds of different technologies and solutions into whole solutions that cover all the necessary bases in regard to climate change is necessary, rather than partial, scattershot, or limited or narrowly focused solutions that are provably not moving the needle on climate change. We find that an unarguable fact. The temperature is increasing. All of our current paradigm and efforts have not changed that. So we're not criticizing anyone. We're saying That means we must change what we're doing. A new paradigm, a new way, a new approach, a new collaborative effort that has not existed in the world before and can now, because of available technology, occur. And we can intend it, we can choose it, we can build it together. And that means efficient usage of scarce resources, more efficient usage. So we're not wasting the resources over and over again, and not trying to put out a forest fire with a squirt gun, or put out a house that's on fire with a squirt gun while the whole forest is burning right beside us. So in this collaborative approach, we have found as an organization that these tenets tend to support collaborative effort. If we recognize that we're all forever equal, if we commit to the tenet that no individual in the process gets to be in control or pressurizes everybody or intimidates everybody or forces or dominates other people in the collaborative process through any means or any mode of influence, to have things their individual way, so that it's a collective effort and thus a collective result. And this is, we would suggest that any of these prior modalities of leadership, of trying to cookie cut or impress or force change on people, is not a conscious leadership paradigm. So that means the historical dynamics of leadership that have occurred in the world are not adequate now. Leadership must change. Leadership must learn, evolve, grow, and become far more collaborative if we want to have the world function in the near future. As an organization, we're not against anyone or anything. We have no criticism, no judgment. There are no bad people. They're souls in process. Even if they're doing destructive things in the world, we get that they have the potential to collaborate, the potential to serve, the potential to love. We are for unity and solutions, unconditional love, peace, service, and collective equality, and collective healing, as well as individual healing. We're willing to surrender all egoic, or what might be termed karmic patterns, or habitual patterns, or conditioned patterns, or tribal patterns and dynamics. We hope and intend that all voices are recognized as constantly equal in every collaborative process. We recognize everyone has skills, abilities, and valid and key contributions to make that are offered and will be accepted to be necessary in this process. Well received, honored, loved, appreciated. We choose to treat each other with respect and to hold safe space for each other and keep our agreements and our commitments as we move forward together. We choose to always interact with love and respect, and to respect others' boundaries and processes. We agree to always operate in humble, spiritually and emotionally mature, tolerant, vulnerable receptivity to all other participants' contributions. Does it make sense that all of this can go against the grain of historical human process, ego process, individual desire to be in control or to feel safe by making others be a certain way, do a certain way, operate a certain way through judgment and punishment dynamics? So this is a significant suggested change, and it's always going to be a work in progress. We get that. So we recognize that neither information nor expertise nor knowledge nor leadership alone is the complete answer to the world's or humanity's challenges. If we hope that that will be, we will fail. If we approach it as if the government's going to fix it all or the leaders understand it all without all of your voices being part of the conversation, that is not a sustainable result. It's not going to generate a sustainable result, or it's not a sustainable process, and it's incomplete. It's missing out on the voices of humanity. So we choose to constantly learn and evolve. We choose mutual acceptance, caring, kindness, patience, peace, nurturance, compassion, and empathy. We recognize that co-creation is a messy process. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. We're all helping create together. And that means we're evolving together, healing together, and collaborating and transforming together. So We want to communicate. These are some of the intended capacities of the social movement engine we are architecting and designing right now, that we want tools that we want to offer you. We want to offer you, we want to offer the world. We want to offer free education to everyone to support all types of coordinated climate change initiatives, solutions generation, and delivery. We want to offer access to a global system of experts, a support system of experts. If you need to understand how to change your life, to move from plastic to paper, or how to diminish your carbon footprint, there'll be obvious information very efficiently made available to you. If you want to collaborate with some social process, some transformational process, you will have access to anybody and everybody in the world that would want to help you, or that you could work with, or that is of like mind, belief, value, or goal. We want to offer a barter system and a solutions generation and distribution system so that people can help each other. People can improve each other's lives, and they can offer their expertise, and they can receive for having offered their expertise or their capacities creatively. We want to offer a collaborative space where nations can work together, organizations can work together, universities can work together, and governmental institutions can work together constructively, not in the current conflicted, limited, and dysfunctional way that they do in the present moment, or at least not optimally functional. So we want to improve the whole process. We want to offer local support for local climate change efforts and funding models to support those efforts. We want to offer crowdsourced solutions development initiatives where people work together to solve problems, and they arrive at whole solutions to holistic issues or challenges. We want to offer software tools and support tools of all kinds, project management tools, and solutions design softwares. We want to be able to support climate migration. Climate migration will occur. It can either be terrible, painful, involve a lot of people's dying or a lot of conflict and suffering, or it can be gone about intelligently and constructively. If it's going to happen anyway, is it optimal that there be a system to support it so that there is less pain and suffering, and so that anybody that migrates from one country to another does so in a way that is well received by the other population, that is supportive of the other population, and doesn't create a burden for that population. So that can mean education of people as a process of supporting climate migration, so that anybody that arrives in any country has something to offer to that country's process. We want to offer models and solutions for changing local towns and cities to be greener, ways to reduce carbon, and implement green technologies and processes, to educate how to effectively collaborate and change our personal and organizational relationships to better align with climate change resolution very, very rapidly. We're not talking about any sales, no advertising, and certainly no manipulative data collection, algorithms, nothing like you might find on traditional social media platforms. So we want to discuss, we want to ask you folks, if you had these capacities available to you right now, if you could contribute and participate in these, from this empowering platform right now, how would life be different for you? How would your dynamic of contribution and service in the world change? How could you more effectively apply your creative potential in the world than the world is currently supportive of you contributing? And so we would ask to take down the slideshow for a moment and just converse on this if you folks are open to that.
I'd like to say that one of the things that came first to mind was that I feel I would be able to take in more information if I had a collaboration platform such as the SME. I feel like I would be able to actually listen on a larger scale because I would be able to kind of move the information through and like have a place to put it instead of like trying to absorb all of the information and just hold it without anywhere for it to go. So I feel like I could kind of insert myself into a flow of some kind and be more available relationally and to affect.
Totally agreed. And it is our hope that that will be a capacity that's made available to everybody to diminish the stress of climate change and maximize the empowerment that and contribution that anyone could make, no matter how much time they have available. If it were 10 minutes a week, they could help change the world. Other thoughts, reflections?
I just think it would be so beautiful to be able to send people to the engine that do care deeply about the world and feel that they're not being of effect because they don't feel like they have the ability to be so. And so there's a lot of folks that I know right now that would like to help with climate change, but they don't know where to go or how to do it. And I think that they all have brilliant ideas and initiatives that some of these folks I'm thinking of to help the world. And their impact doesn't feel great enough for them to spend that much time on it in some way, like these smaller organizations or initiatives. And so they could take that into the engine and then make a greater impact and connect with people to help bring forth their brilliance, their ideas, their ways that they want to help the world in a way that's more facilitative and feel the support in that and feel guided in that. And also that I can feel how that would mitigate some of that pain and fear that they live with. And so I think there's a whole lot of redirecting of a lot of people that I care about there, and then that we can connect and collaborate together and also would build that connection with these people in a different way to unite these people together, even with possibly family members or friends that they haven't been hanging out with for a while. There's so much potential in the engine to also collaborate with people that we care about.
I appreciate the complexity and the scope of the SME. And my concern sense is, given the cost of implementing it, maintaining it once it's up and running, what sources of revenues would you expect to come in to do that without giving up any control or influence in the process?
Thank you. That's a brilliant question. And there are a variety of models that we can approach it from. One is organizational and institutional contributions to the platform, to have it operate as a utility rather than as an organization. Just as we pay for electrical companies or water distribution in the world and in cities, those are necessary infrastructural elements. And we would suggest that we see this as a necessary infrastructural element. So in part, nations and organizations contributing to it for that purpose and recognizing it as a necessary support mechanism for their transformation. There's so many organizations and literally nations that don't know how they can or could or should optimally change and transform their economies or their ecological system or their farming techniques or their social process in a way to create a sustainable life process for humanity. That's one option and possibility in which we intend to pursue. That said, in addition to that, this can be, and it's our hope that it will be, a collaboration space for existing competitive organizations that, as they become more and more aware that as much money as their organizations may have made in the past operating competitively, that dynamic, if it keeps going unfettered or without changing trajectory, will just continue to consume our world blindly. So as they understand more and more that collaboration is the antidote, and that sharing, not sequestering, not hiding or holding on to ideas, knowledge, technologies, and solutions capabilities, as they realize that to be true, they'll become more willing to blend their capabilities with other nations, or sorry, with other organizations. Can you imagine how different life could be if we had Microsoft and Google and Amazon and all other giant, powerful, capable organizations working collaboratively together in the same workspace, bringing all of their brilliance, all of their knowledge and their capacities to bear upon the climate change issues that we're facing? None of them alone is going to do it. Tesla is creating some fantastic electric vehicles. That's a piece of the puzzle. It's not moving the needle on climate change. If they all work together and they have a space to work together, then the results become catalytically greater than they could have been otherwise. And that said, does that mean they can't then sell products on that platform? Of course they can. And that said, that process of selling those products on that platform, they could either offer to contribute a percentage of their profits for the maintenance of that platform, that utility that is supporting their collaborative efforts, their capacity to deliver integrated solutions, whole solutions that can't exist unless that platform exists to the world. So we would simultaneously offer everything that we had to offer to them: education, support, facilitation, administration, connecting them to other people that could, or groups or organizations or nations that would collaborate with them. And again, until we build it, until it is in existence, the 6 degrees of separation remain in place. And with that 6 degrees of separation, inadequate capacity globally. So we would ask those organizations to contribute something to the process. Again, this is a nonprofit organization, a nonprofit model. We're not interested in making money. We're not interested in doing anything other than serving humanity in the natural world. As the pressures in this world, which are increasing dramatically and are driving things like the war between Russia and Ukraine, as the pressures of climate change increase and scale, more drought, more wars, more hurricanes, more fires, that's going to generate a pressure to find solutions. How are those solutions going to be arrived at, if not via a collaborative effort? And how does that collaborative effort occur if there's no system to support it? So we can try to use old solutions, old technologies that no longer map to current problems and this current scale of problems. We can try, and that won't be efficient, and it may not meet the mark. We would suggest it's unlikely to meet the necessary time frame of solutions generation of 3 to 7.5 years. We need concerted action now. We need a way to deliver, to channel that energy, that capacity, that the possibility that all of humanity represents directly, efficiently, effectively into solutions. There must be some delivery system. There must be some environment for people to work together. There must be some rapid way for them to say, well, I've got this ingredient, you've got that ingredient, I've got this technical capacity, and we've got this infrastructure. How do we put those pieces of the puzzle together to solve for climate change today? And not put it off, not operate from fear of change, fear of fundamental transformation globally, fear of not getting ours ahead of everybody else, fear of changing the whole paradigm. How do we get past that fear? We would suggest that only through designing this bridge together, this solutions capacity together, will we be able to get past our prior predispositions of fear, distrust, tribalism, competition, habits of dysfunction that simply will not generate necessary solutions in the time available and with the resources available. I don't know if that answered anything that you were asking. I hope that it did.
It did. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited with this workshop because I think like it brought a lot of the ideas together that we've been talking about at the smaller meetings, and I feel like I have a really good understanding now of what needs to be done and how we're going to do it and how the system works. So I'm like really empowered by that. Also, some level of, do I have the patience? How frustrated will I be because it's going to take a while and it's so overwhelming. So I feel all of it at once, but it's really been empowering this workshop and how like clarified I am right now of what's happening and what we need to do and how exciting it is, and just appreciate everyone being here and all the work we're doing, and feel like we're close and we always have to double down our efforts every time, and excited to take the next step.
Thank you so much. Bless your heart. We appreciate these communications. And it is our absolute hope and intention that this quality of clarity that you're describing will be available to everybody, so they can simply say, yeah, we get it. And it's okay. We can do it together. We have faith in each other. We have the capacity, the creative in ability, and we have the technology. And we have the collective will to affect it. Other folks, comments?
I have a question. I was just wondering, how are you planning on getting like these big companies attention and buy-in, like Amazon and everybody like that?
That's a great question. And we would suggest that first, these folks already understand the power of large platforms. They all have large platforms already. And they also likely understand the limitations of those platforms, the capacities and the incapacities. So it's more a question of delivering a succinct, clear communication to them, building the platform, of course, and saying, by the way, did you know, if you collaborate with each other, you would have the capacity to generate these solutions. And that you cannot if you're in a siloed organizational process, you'll have great capacity and you'll also have vast limitation. We want to augment that creatively. We want to augment their capacities. We want to magnify their positive efforts in the world. And being very candid, does every one of these organizations, does their social image matter to them for their success, for their continuing in the world, for them to affect their goals? And this would be a way for them to show in real substantive, not greenwashing terms, in real true substantive terms, we are committed to climate change resolution. We do care. We do have a heart. And on this platform, that would be a transparent process. There wouldn't be an option of greenwashing. There wouldn't be an option of not having their efforts seen by all for the truth of what they're contributing. And we see also, as they come online more and more and more, that they'll begin to understand more and more and more when, where, how, and why their business models won't be able to continue in a competitive world. They just won't. There are some Nobel economists that have run both in the 70s and in 2020, they've run models of economic future evolution. And all of these models are saying that we're looking at potential economic collapse if we continue business as usual. So we would say, just in their self-interest, if they want to have a continuity of organizational viability, stability, and profit, that if they're and of course they do have access to this information, we've no doubt about that they would want some way forward that they may not be able to envision in the present moment because they're seeing themselves as separate, unorganized, non-aligned, non-collaborative entities. And if they're given a model, a new paradigm of how they can collaborate in order to avoid that potential economic collapse, whether it's driven by eating up all the resources in the world, or competing ourselves to death, or generating so much climate change symptomology that the disruptions become so endemic that we just can't hold our economy together. Whatever the process, we hope that those messages can reach them, that they can be understood succinctly, clearly, and without equivocation to say, okay, we get it. Now what do we do? Okay. Again, we're not saying we've got all the answers. We're saying we're trying to create a container for them to bring their brilliance together and solve it together, for them to build the bridge, them to build the solutions, them to offer their expertise and resources and capacities constructively. Other folks, we hope that it helped.
Hi, this is Blue in Sedona. I'm just trying to understand, okay, the social movement engine, and you've described it as a platform. So are we talking about a website with an organization behind it of people who maybe, you know, there's a specialist here and somebody else who's good at that, you know, so people working together to have all the information for people who want to help the earth basically on this website, and then bring in these other pre-existing powerful entities to participate. Am I getting this, or am I off?
You're getting it, you're understanding, and there are many different capacities that we want this to have. And from a technical vantage point, does it make sense that we could have a dozen different user interfaces, so to speak, one for governments, one for large scale corporations, one for crowd initiatives or social movements, one for individuals? So different ways to interact, interface with the system, make it all the data available to everybody so that everybody can learn together, grow together, generate solutions together, solve the problems together, and operate in ever more elegantly organized and orchestrated ways. So yes, and right now in most, if we contemplate most websites, they're very limited constructs. They have very narrow focuses, very limited capacities, and very narrow capacity to organize people, to aggregate or bring together organizations or large social initiatives or climate change resolution initiatives. Our intention is to design this system to be able to hold up and support millions of people who are interested in changing their nation for the better, or millions or billions of people who are willing and interested in changing the way the humanity relates to our natural system, the ecosystem of our world, locally and globally. So absolutely, it would be the case. So anybody could log on. Anyone who's got a cell phone would be able to interact with this system. We want to make it deployable to computers, to cell phones, to organizations. Right now, not everyone in the world has a cell phone, and an amazing number of people do have access to a cell phone or to tablets. And part of our intention in terms of, for example, of climate change migration, deliver people cell phone service. Give them connection to the internet so that they can say, by the way, we've got 100,000 people in this country that are either impoverished or being abused by totalitarian governments or are in pain and in suffering, and we need a place to go. Right now, Bangladesh, a country that is currently, according to science, is going to be underwater by 2050. It's got hundreds of millions of people, one of the most densely packed populations of any nation in the world. And the three countries that surround it have built walls, so they can't get out. They can't build barriers to keep the ocean out because their coastline is too broad. So and they're getting worse hurricanes every year. And so it's damaging their economy. It's killing people. It is, and these folks are going to need to move. And when they do, somehow, some way, is that going to be a disruption to the world? Or is that going to be a constructive, well-organized, orchestrated process whereby the people of Bangladesh are prepared to move? They've got a place to move. You don't have 100,000 people. Sorry, you don't have 100,000 people potentially dying on the ocean on the way to a possible destination where they and their families can survive. Right now, people are crossing the Mediterranean in large masses, overfilled rafts and ships, and they're sinking. They're dying on the way. Why is there not a system in place to say, okay, we get, you've got these pains and this suffering. How can we augment your process? How can we support you? How can we offer you communications, logistics, food, water, medicine, and whatever preparation before you even leave where you're at, so that wherever you go, they're not unhappy about you arriving. They want you to. They're asking you to because you have necessary skills, education, capacity that's going to benefit their nation, that's going to help their nation function better. How are you going to, if we deliver a system to them that says, okay, you're contemplating going to live in Germany. Well, here are all the customs of Germany. This is how Germany rolls. This is their culture. These are their beliefs. These are their values. If you want to fit in optimally and you want to serve that population and be received well, this is the path. We can do that today. That's not some mythical possibility. We can do that today for every person that might want to migrate from any country. Why aren't we doing it? What are the barriers? So, and if we say to these large organizations, by the way, climate change migration is going to happen. If it's going to disrupt economies around the world, it's going to disrupt your profit. You're not going to make the money you're making in the future if you don't help do something about this that's constructive and healthy and serves humanity. Therefore, would you like to be on the positive side of history as we move forward and say you did something? You did something good for everybody. We don't know if that helped. Other thoughts, reflections?
Go ahead, Carrie.
Thank you. I believe at this point that most of us are convinced that the heart and mission of WSS are definitely in the right place and looking to solve the biggest challenges that humanity faces. What we may want to understand better or work towards are what are the next steps in building the social movement engine? What does WSS need to become this incredible resource? Because you've mentioned routes to support and solve lots of everything, like many, many wonderful things that can be directed and worked through this system. But what is needed next to get there? What do you need from the people in this audience to help with? You know, just specific steps. What aspects of the system need to be built? What sort of funding is needed to support the network architecture? How can we help?
Well, thank you. Bless your heart. Those are brilliant and necessary questions. They're grounding, they're practical. Tangible steps are necessary moving forward. So right now, we have engaged with two IT organizations to design the architecture and the technologies necessary to affect the social movement engine and thus global solutions. In order to bring about that process, it will take us $300,000 for the architectural design and a total of 600,000 for the short term in order to take that design and offer it to the world in very tangible terms and say, these are the capacities we are offering you. This is what you'll be able to do with it. This is how it will work. This is how you can contribute. This is how you can benefit. We want to put it in those absolutely clear, effective, tangible terms. We are, from that point on, constant funding to that, to the deployment and development of that will be necessary. So any and all participation by any of your networks, any folks you know that would be interested in funding that effort would be fantastic. This is key. All of that is key. This is super important. We want to understand the needs of current organizations. If there are climate change organizations out there that are currently doing fantastic things in the world, and they're only able to have a certain degree of effect, we want to be able to unify them on this platform and synergize and blend their efforts so that they're all aligned together. They're all putting their shoulder to the same wheel at the same time in the same direction, efficiently and effectively. So we want to work with these organizations and have them tell us what they need. Tell us what will empower them. Tell us what will magnify their effect in the world. And this is the same for any organizational model. There's so many fantastic organizations that are in the world right now that are doing great things, and they don't have a mechanism by which to amplify or magnify their organizational power, their positive intentions in the world. So if they collaborate with us on that design, then we will be able to ensure that it immediately meets the need. So right now we're talking with an organization that is developing architectures in agroecology. Brilliant people, 20 years of knowledge and experience and understanding. It is our hope that they will say, we know if we want to regenerate the soil of the planet, that these are the requirements. It's got to happen this way. It's got to have this technical infrastructure. It's got to have these scientists. It's got to have this support, these farmers, et cetera, that operate in these specific ways. It's got to be supported by the local systems of governance and society or culture in these specific ways. We want to understand all of that precisely so that then it becomes deployable everywhere. That kind of information then becomes available to every agroecological effort in the world. So there are many wonderful agroecological efforts in the world that are very difficult to apply because of either weather conditions, lack of water, current political systems, current ways of doing things, current for-profit farming techniques, etc. If we can offer to them refinement, not saying scrap your whole model, say if you make these changes in this way, very precisely, you'll get 90% of yield in terms of crop production, and you'll get 500% improvement in your carbon footprint, or you'll rebuild the soil, or you'll create food that's more healthy and helps humanity. And if you don't, we get it. We're not judging you for operating that way. That said, if other organizations or other nations are operating that way more and more and more, is it going to become the norm? Is there going to be an expectation that become the way forward for humanity? So this participation, funding, networking, and organizing. We want to talk with people. We want to have conversations. We want to have participants so that we can build this and refine this architecture so that it is laser focused on the greatest, most optimal effect and potential immediately, because we don't have time for anything other than immediate. We just don't. I don't know if that answered any questions. We hope. Other thoughts, questions,
have-
reflections?
I
Please.
haven't, oops, go ahead.
I just wondered, Carrie, did you want to respond?
Yeah, well, I guess one more thing in closure of that question. Um, I get where you're going with what we can do for the world and for these agrosystems and how they can be built by collective support. And I heard that WSS needs $600,000 for a software system. That's something very tangible, very doable. Okay. And then I heard a bunch of other tasks that need to be done. Is there a list of volunteer or staff positions that need to be filled, potentially by people in this room or elsewhere, that they can hop in and get laser focused on the specific tasks that will draw WSS to the fruitful running of the social movement engine?
Thank you. Another wonderful and excellent question. So right now we have our current organizational process, and we can put together a list of skills and capacities and abilities that we are looking for in the near term. That's one. Two, the social movement engine architecture is going to require, it's going to need to be a robust organizational model. And we want to design that in a very transdisciplinary model, in a very conscious cultural process, because it needs to be able to effectively draw upon all of that transdisciplinary expertise and ensure that it is, again, well organized, effective, efficient, laser focused, and utilizes every single resource as efficiently as is possible. So we are, again, in these conversations with these folks, agroecology organizations, we understand that they already have models of scientists, so to speak, organizations that are brilliantly designed and evolved. So we would just suggest that we understand that there are many organizational models in the world that do things brilliantly. We don't want to reinvent that wheel. We want to ask them to help design in their existing capacities into a synthesis on this platform. So we're going to be creating that list, and we hope to do it within the next month and a half, 2 months at most, of specific expertise that we want to hire for, because we recognize it takes a certain amount of time for agroecology efforts to take effect in the world. Plants grow at the rate they grow. They can be augmented. And that said, if we want to be able to utilize agroecology efforts to absorb carbon, they've got to be scalable rapidly. If we want to be able to rejuvenate soil, that takes the time it takes. If we want to be able to produce food at large scale, it takes time to grow, and it takes people to grow it. And we get that, we understand. And we're intending that to be designed into the software, infrastructure, platform architecture, as well as to hire specifically for that. That is our intention to, and to design this model so it supports deployability of green efforts of all kinds around the world, and to be able to harmoniously develop all of them. Amy?
Sadie was
Thank
and
you.
Blue were before me.
Thanks. There's something that in Carrie's question, that I feel called to participate in it, that there is this nuance about the WSS culture that we have been building, that if it doesn't exist in real time and evolve and emerge, then the platform won't exist. So it's these experiences that we have collaboratively together that help to ground the possibility of this emergence. So, and we will go into the orientation team about different ways to collaborate, that there's different tracks in collaboration, and the communications and PR team definitely is open to volunteers at this time.
Please.
Go ahead, Blue.
Blue?
Hi. It sounds great, and it sounds like a synergistic institute. That was my concept in 1972 when I graduated from college. I wanted to start a synergistic institute, and I was counseled by counselors at college, older than me and wiser than me. And they said, A, where is your money coming from? And B, where is your credibility? I was a, young person, nobody knew. And I did start to ask around. I started to ask people that I wanted to be involved. And a lot of people just kind of patted me on the head, and said, "It's great what you're doing. Go for it." But yeah, how will WSS build the credibility at the same time as raising the money? I mean, yeah, 600 grand for the software is a target, but then to have staff, people are going to be needed to make all these connections and process all the information flow. That means salaries. I know I'm bringing up a lot of, well, what do you think about those questions?
Those are vital questions. And we intend, and we are looking to bring in millions and millions of dollars to hire those experts, to pay those salaries, to pay for additional augmentations to the infrastructure. We are under no illusions in those regards. This cannot happen unless it is funded. We are hoping to work with various foundations that currently want very good things in the world to occur. And that said, they don't have a mechanism of affecting those goals, whether locally or globally, at enough scale to have the effect that they want to have in the world. So multiple foundations potentially funding this simultaneously is one of our current approaches. And we applaud your efforts, by the way. You were ahead of your time, so to speak, in your vision and in your understandings. It's that time is now. If it's not now, it's not going to happen. I mean, we're being very candid with that. If we don't get together and work together now, the likelihood is that we're going to either, as nations, start fighting over scraps, that we're going to be divided and get caught up in putting out fires while the world continues to go off the edge. We can't rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic and assume that that's going to change the trajectory of the ship. So right now there is growing awareness, and it's taken the time it's taken. And that's, humanity learns slowly sometimes. And the pressure that we're under right now is requiring us to learn faster and more comprehensively. So we're hoping we have faith that learning is now imbued enough, blended enough into the collective psyche, at least of leadership and at least of high organizational capacity, large organizations, and also in people who are trying to make the world a better place, enough of them that we can have this critical mass of understanding culminate in necessary, effective global result. And this organization as a manifestation of that process. We hope that helps. Amy?
Yeah, I want to chime in on just everything that you guys are sharing and just provide a little bit of understanding also about participation options and the funding dynamics, just so it's understood a little bit. When we say 600,000, that is a short-term goal that we have right now, and that what that does is support. We do have an existing organization, so we've been incorporated since January of 2021, and we have a beautiful team of volunteers and contractors and a couple employees that have built a very profound education track that we meet every Friday and talk through many of what you've experienced in this workshop on a weekly, developing, ongoing, deepening basis. And we have an orientation team that supports that. And that's also through the network that we've built. We've gotten to meet a bunch of amazing people. So this current build of the SME, which we've been working on for quite a while in its design, the 300,000 gets us to an actual modeled specification of the necessary softwares we need to go into build mode. So I just wanted to make that clear that once we have that specification in a very grounded way, that allows us to go to very big funders and very big people that are looking for, I want to know how all the pieces fit together before I'll talk to you and see how this really could work and what it's meant to affect. And then we that's where the millions comes in that John was mentioning. So we believe the build itself will probably be 10 million. And part of the, and again, we're not looking to do that alone. Part of every step of the way of this process has been to be in a constant learning culture, and every single person we speak to that's of service in the world or would like to be is informing the process itself and contributing to what this build will be. So as far as participation tracks, and I'll put up a slide in just a moment with our website and how to reach our orientation team. There is an opportunity for anyone that would like to deepen their experience of this idea of removing our identities and operating from a higher state of consciousness, because we need those people, we need you in the world that are willing to step in as holding that for the rest of the world and bringing that into this platform so that the rest of the world can be facilitated to collaborate. And that's an energy that we're building here in this moment. And so anyone is invited for free to be part of our education process. We have a full YouTube channel with over 200 videos now of John's talks that have come out of these Friday meetings. We share them all for free. And our website has quite a few white papers and materials that can be engaged with and read as well. And then we have teams that people can participate in terms of whether we have ones that are around science, around spirituality, around women's empowerment, all these different facets of life that aren't just about technology, and they're about all the different dimensions of selves that would need to be looked at to come into true collaboration in a holistic way and harmony with the environment. So we're in a deep exploration. So we invite all of you to be participative in any way you would offer yourself, your expertise, your resources, your finances to this to help us keep going and get to this next phase. So I hope that offers a little bit of clarity. And I will, I know we're at time right now and want to just thank you all so much just for being here. We are open to more questions at this time. That said, for those of you that that need to go, I want to make sure we put this information up. Give me one moment. Okay. Just so you have the reference of our email, and we do have orientation team members online that have been beautifully taking note of all the people that are here, and we hope to follow up with you and get you on our email list as well. And if any of them would like to speak in, I invite them to do so. And if there's any questions about anything I just shared at this time, please speak in.
Just to mention, we are building an advisory council that we hope will bring in very knowledgeable, capable people to help guide our organizational process and also to act as ambassadors to the world to help get the message out, so to speak.
I'll just speak in real quick. Thank you, Amy. And I'm from the orientation team. My name's Megan. And yeah, I look forward to just following up with everyone after this. And there's a couple others on the team here too that you may hear from. And really just seeing how, just where you specifically are. There's not like a just one size all fits all type of collaboration within the WSS. And so that's where we get to have communications and build deeper relationships and really understand, like Blue, what you were talking about earlier in your visions from the 70s, the things that are moving through you may be very different than what are moving through other people. And the idea is to really engage just what is just most important to each person and allow that to unfold in a way where we're all bringing our best to the table. We're all bringing what we love and appreciate to the table. So that's where the orientation team comes in, and we can just get to know you more. And I think from my view, in a very tangible way, what can have the most grassroots effect right now, yes, funding, yes, advisory board. There's a lot of kind of these different areas. One specific area that is just overall communications and the different ways that we have connections in the world and how we are communicating to those connections or organizations that we do have. So we have several different teams that are working on that in many different ways. And in part of working on these communications is also going through this whole process of understanding ourselves and how we're interacting in the world and our identities and everything that we've talked about today. So many, many layers, and I'm just so thankful that we had the opportunity to learn more and be together. So thank you all.
Well, if there's no one has anything else, I want to thank you, all the animals on the world. Thank you for being here today. We would like to offer you a short closing meditation for those that are able to stay. Reagan Thompson, our chairman of the board, has offered that for us, and we look forward to seeing you all again and collaborating more. So much love to all of you. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you, everyone. I'd be happy to offer this closing meditation today. So if you so choose, you can just relax in your chair now or wherever you may be at this point and just let your body just drop down and just start to breathe. Starting to breathe deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth. Some deep cleansing, purifying breaths. Feeling the light moving into your system through the breath. This beautiful light and love coming in through the breath, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Really feeling into this excellent workshop today as you breathe. Just feeling into the wisdom, the information, and the true potential, the powerful potential of how much this workshop could be effective to help this entire globe, what was shared and how it was shared, and the beautiful souls that arrived to share in this workshop today. Everyone who came has a beautiful, bright heart and soul, and that's why they came. So we're going to take that slow and deep breath once more. And just feeling into the potential now. How much we learned today about how it's all about conscious collaboration. So much of it is. We're so grateful for, we know that in this moment, conscious collaboration is grounded in our systems in a new way. This end of this contagion of division and separation, moving us into a state of true oneness across the globe. Seeing that everything that has ever happened has led us to this moment. So there is no problem, there is nothing wrong. It simply was time for humanity to awaken into greater consciousness. And it is so that we needed something called climate change to do that, to show us what's been going on this planet that has been unserving, not kind, not caring to one another, to our planet, to the natural world, that it is so. So here we are, getting to be here together, learning together, growing together, expanding together, feeling our souls online together in this space of divine service. We are not identities. We are not whatever we think we have been or what we will be. We are just these beautiful, beautiful souls having a divine human experience to help us learn and grow together. So anything that's in our systems now that has rose up, any type of obscurations of any kind, any fears, any doubts, any worries, any insecurities, any mistrust, any beliefs of any kind, that they now be purified into the light, that they may be surrendered to the light if we so choose. So that as we walk forward together effectively, rapidly, proactively, in conscious constructive action to help this planet evolve, to grow, to heal into greater consciousness. And we do it with joy. And we thank you for this assistance and this support as we walk forward together. And any obstacle that tries to show up now or in the future, that it be removed rapidly, effectively through the divine's assistance. We are so grateful. Thank you so much for this divine appointment, this excellent workshop. We're so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with these words, we say, and so it is, and so it shall be. Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Reagan. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Looking forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.